Hello. So today we have a best of three match between Cammy and Dan. I decided to do this because Dan is kind of tricky to play, and a lot of people seem to have questions about him. And my opponent is a Dan main, so he's probably about the best at Dan as anyone is right now. So just something to note is that if Cammy moves past her opponent during a strike, then she'll hit no matter what. And Dan his critical impacts wild swings. So Dan gets up close. It helps him dump cards from his hand because if he doesn't have cards in his hand, then his ultras are free. And he starts off with a wild swing. He loses to the speed tie, gets pushed away. Cammy likes having some range so that her attacks are more on the speed curve. Dan dumps more cards to get in. And Cammy again likes to have some range. Dan will probably respond by closing in again. But surprisingly, he doesn't. So this boost that Cammy just played is interesting because if you never play normal attacks, you always threaten fast normal attacks. I think in this match I didn't fully take advantage of that, and it wasn't until reflection that I realized how valuable it is to have out as a threat. But we see that Cammy flat out lost that strike, and the boost is still in play. Now Psycho Glory is also interesting, and it's very noteworthy in this match. On this strike with the dive, that wasn't really the best move, but I thought it'd be a fun move to make, to use that boost to cross sides and then cross back again. Yeah, so even people who play a lot can make mistakes. I threw out the wrong duplicate card and didn't realize it, so he pointed it out for me. And I did have the other spiral arrow in hand though. Anyways, that attack has a really nice critical, but it's a bummer when you use the critical and you don't actually need to take advantage of it. And in that case, that's what happened. Boosting for speed, it's always a nice threat, but it was immediately teched. Pulling it out again, as he didn't like that threat. But, like, part of my playstyle is I'll play boost that without actually having anything in my hand to capitalize on it. So I'm just kind of doing whatever. Like, why do I need a speed boost on that? It would have been better to just let the boost go to gauge. But at least some distance was created. It's interesting how Dan in this match, so far the entire match, he's had a pretty decent sized hand, which has allowed him to threaten EX attacks. It's allowed him to, I mean, striking from hand has been going pretty well for him. Well, I mean, he's losing right now. I guess it hasn't been going that well for him. So that's a really powerful combo there. That Ultra lets you advance and then play a card from your hand for the damage. So he hit really hard. And this is a bummer to get stunned out of this. Normally that Danku Kyaku is risky because if you switch sides you miss, but in the corner it's impossible to miss with it. It's above the curve, so it's a very solid threat in the corner. So I just lost some gauge there. I'm not sure what exactly is being set up right now. I mean, we see that Dan now is in low hand mode, and he's probably going to stay tunneled in that mode for the rest of the match. It's really easy as Dan to just kind of get funneled into playing with no hand and wild swinging the whole time as long as you have gauge to pay for the criticals. But it may not always be the best case with him. So that was, I believe, a no crit wild swing. At range 4, Dan doesn't have a ton of options. I guess he has a few fireballs. Here, Cammy just chose to get some gauge. Probably to threaten that CQC in her hand. Dan actually, I believe he critted that wild swing, so he actually trades up with the +1 power. And this entire time you'll notice he has not been stunned, and so Psycho Glory is still just hanging out, making all his attacks critical. Saves him a lot of gauge to have that effect. Both reshuffle. Typically, you want to reshuffle before you hit 5 cards left in your deck. I'm personally of the mind that when you hit around the lower half of your deck, that reshuffling may be worth it depending on what's going on. Because, I mean, I've maybe lost to deck out once, and I've maybe seen an opponent lose to deck out 2 or 3 times out of the hundreds of matches that I've played. So I think the reshuffle action actually isn't used, like fully utilized as well as it could be. But that's just my opinion. So again, threatening speed, which would work very well with that cannonball, or even the Rager's slicer attack down there. So he just did a poor man's tech, striking, missing intentionally to get rid of that speed boost, and it seems like I just feel like threatening speed boost this match. So we get that cannonball out. It's going to be a bummer if it loses the speed tie, and we see that it didn't. We actually stunned Dan. Psycho Glory is out. So far, it's actually a pretty close match. And this would have been great, but he has speed 6 because he critted, and hits for a nice solid 7 damage. That was a game-changing strike there. Really, really solid wild swing. Especially right after a reshuffle, the chances of that is pretty low. So what Dan does coming up is really clever. This match I remember that Dan, he bluffed me a lot. He did a lot of strikes where I was expecting one thing and got something else, and here he bluffed with a dive, and he was trying to bait out my CQC. You'll see in the comments he said gotcha because he was betting that I had that in my hand and wanted to use it with 1 life to even the odds out. And then he wins the speed there, and that's the match. So this match was notable to me because being bluffed like 3 or 4 strikes where I expected something scary, and like when he did the focus to get rid of my speed boost. And I thought Dan played very well in this match. I liked how he managed his hand, how he managed his gauge, how he used his ultras. I thought Dan played very solidly here. So now we're on to round 2. Let's see if Cammy can pull out a win. As a reminder, Cammy is very mobile and likes to switch sides with her opponents during strikes, and Dan has advantages when he wild swings. My opponent actually said that one thing he considers with Dan is he likes to lean on the speed curve using his wild swing critical effect so that he can outspeed on defense. So here at the start we have a double miss, which is fine. It's actually interesting to just reposition that way. I'm always okay with the start like that. I'm bringing out the slide again to threaten the normal attacks, and he's trying to call me out. He read Grasp, which I do not have, so I can play with anything I want here. I opt for... Did I set a spike? That may not have been really a great decision, but let's see if it pans out. It looks like it did pan out. No, I missed because of that before advance 3. That's kind of bizarre. Yeah, if he critted that attack, he would have outsped on defense. But it's always a gamble, especially at range 1, because Dan has... Actually, no, I think Dan's pretty good at range 1. I'm not sure. Tell me what you think in the comments. Wink, wink. So this Haugadoken, I would say, is probably Dan's signature attack. It hits hard, it's free, with no cards in hand, and it dodges range 2 to 5, which is really valuable, especially against Cammy with how mobile she is. The problem here is that because Cammy likes switching sides, Dan tried a strategy where he stayed in the corner, and we can see that the corner is not really bugging Cammy, and it's actually kind of restricting Dan because he's pretty much at the mercy of whatever Cammy decides to do for positioning. And if Dan can't get some hits in, he's not going to have enough gauge to spend his force to get out of the corner, and he's funneled into not having a hand and just wild swinging and hoping for the best, which is just not a strat that is going to help him win. It would probably be better for him in this circumstance to build up a hand and get some force, threaten some EXs, or, have more options being in the corner. Because even though Cammy can't switch sides, I mean, none of her attacks suffer from that. It's just a nice little bonus for her to be able to hit switching sides. So we see that Dan is he's hurting right now pretty bad. And Cammy's been making really good use of her tools to back out, get at a good spot to be on curve or to do some safe attacks. And we see in the comments down there his reads are being wrong, which, I mean, he's wild swinging the whole time. It doesn't matter what he's reading. But in any case, I think this shows that, I mean, the tendency would be, oh, Cammy likes to switch sides, let's get in the corner. She doesn't really have that much of an issue. Well, especially against Dan. I mean, if it was Vega in the corner, that might be different, or there may be other characters that have maybe better options than Dan does. So anyways, we see that it's fun to experiment, but it doesn't always work out for your benefit. And we're back for round 3. Who is going to come out on top this round? Well, we'll find out. Looks like she's having a tough time deciding whether to mulligan that Ultra or not. I typically like to mulligan Ultras because I think they're just a fun little present to get during the middle of a match. So Dan used his peak ability, decided to throw it to Gage so he can start critting his wild swings. And Cammy's moving in closer to threaten her. She has the EX Assault in there, she has Spike, she has Sweep, she has a few pretty good options at this range. On the defense, the EX Assault is a no-brainer. Although the boost on Assault is really nice for Cammy to open up space. At range 1, now attacks won't hit her at this range, which is great if she has an attack that closes in right now. However, when I played that other boost, I forgot the caveat that it goes to Gage at the end of your next turn, so she doesn't get to just keep it out. Which is fine, like a Gage is fine, but I was a little spacey this match, I guess. He's reading Cross, which is interesting. I guess that means he's playing the Speed 6 attack, maybe, to break the speed tie. Yeah, the Dankakyaku. So he was hoping to, I don't know exactly what he's trying to accomplish there because he would have missed either way since he switched sides. So that boost I was just mentioning on Assault, she has a special with it, and you see that I used it. Although I'm not a Cammy pro, so deciding which space to land on, I just took the maximum because it felt cool. But you'll see some repositioning before the next strike because I just retreated too far away. And we see that Psycho Glory is out now. I wonder how long it's going to last this match. Dan is really, he really wants to hit with his next attack. Wants to make it count. It's going to be a wild swing with Psycho Glory out because that's where the critical applies, so it's going to be an incredibly safe wild swing. Even if I struck with an EX attack, I'd probably lose, so I think that's why I chose to wild swing here instead of playing from hand, because it's just going to be a lost beat anyways. And we see that it was. But at least I didn't lose any cards from my hand. Now with a hand like this, I mean that EX Cannonball looks really nice. I hope that Cammy makes some use of that. Well, I mean the boosts are nice as well, but I mean it has Ignore Guard on the crit trigger, which is just a really nice win there. Now that Godoken, I knew it was coming because he put it back on top of his deck with the trigger effect on it, and he declared that he was wild swinging, so I knew it was a speed 5, and I thought I'd just trade up on it, and he didn't put it back again because it must have dawned on him with the large hand size that I had a few options to win a strike against his Hidoken. So I'm boosting up guard because, like, Cammy actually really appreciates the defend boost a lot because it allows her to strike from a closer range with a slower attack and not get stunned out and still be able to switch sides. It's more useful for her to play that defend boost after she exceeds because then she gets a power bonus and advantage. So it just guarantees that she can capitalize on her exceed mode more. But it's still a nice boost for Cammy. Some characters really appreciate that defend boost a lot. And in Street Fighter, since the speeds of the specials have been toned down to more mid-speed attacks, defend has become an even more valuable boost. It makes things a lot less risky when you're doing mix-ups. So Dan is, he's actually maintaining some cards in his hand, and you see that he's holding his own really well. Also, earlier in the match, he did a change card 0, which only let him draw 1 at the end of turn, so he didn't fill up his hand too much, which was an interesting move. Now in this strike, I was getting just kind of wigged out. When he moved to range 2, I didn't know what he was planning. So I played an EX Cross because I wanted to hit for sure, but oddly enough, like, it was really a bad choice because the defend out I could play slower attack, not get stunned. And we see that the EX Cross I missed anyways because it's how Godoken dodges at range 2 to 5. However, if I played any other attack, I would have switched sides and still been at range 2 to 5 to him anyways, and I would have missed. So I exceeded, get the +1 power and the advantage, and last strike I took advantage of it, this strike I took advantage of it again, so I got advantage 2 times in a row, plus the power boost on both attacks. This strike was disappointing because sweep, you know, it's so safe, but he got that Shishopia Raiken out. This was just me being dumb. I thought that CQC was 2 gauge, so I played it, and I couldn't afford it, so I had to wild swing. Not the best performance. Kind of choking right now. That's actually the game because he wild swung and critted, so it's actually a 7 power sweep. So Dan ended up pulling that one out quite nicely. It was another well played game from Dan, but I did make a few critical errors during it. Not taking advantage of the cannonball as a strike when I had both of those in my hand. Obviously the misplay on the 3 gauge ultra when I only had 2 gauge, that wasn't good. And the EX cross was really, like, the boost on cross is great for positioning. It would have been great to save those. And playing an EX, on top of that, there were only so many attacks that I could have EX'd because I was most of the way through my deck. So if I just played a single cross, which still would have outsped, it could have been tricked him into thinking that it was Cammy's attack that speed 5 and closes and makes the opponent miss at range 1, which would have caused him to second guess playing his Ultra that dodges, and he might have played something else and I could have won the strike. I took good advantage of her Exceed mode, and if I played better, it would have been a lot closer and Cammy could have come out on top easily in this match. I hope you enjoyed this video. Comment, like, and subscribe if you enjoy what you saw, and if you like Exceed, and I'll try to put out more content more frequently in the future. Have a nice day.